Hello, hello. Hi everyone, tuning in from my beautiful backyard in LA with this beautiful lemon tree and the birds and whoever else will show up in this live, the dogs, the children. It's very lively out here, so just FYI, I'm tuning in with all of you to share some messages for the collective from the tarot, from my guides. If you are watching this recorded, not live, there's this specific live and my previous one actually, they're all gonna be on YouTube. I know it's a little bit of an annoying format on Instagram where you can't really pause and then return to it. You can't really put it on 1.5 and all the stuff. So this is gonna be on YouTube. If you want, you can go on my page and it's all there. So I just wanted to spend like an hour just chatting and sharing what's been coming up with the collective these days. Pull some cards, and I'm realizing I just have the card that I pulled, so the whole pulling cards for people who are joining me live here, let's do this next time, okay? I didn't bring my cards, I just brought the card that showed up when I was tuning in to the collective today. So last time I went live to share on the collective was about a month or two ago, I think 2 months ago now, and we had the Temperance card, and again we have the Temperance card. So similar message but different message. The thing with the cards, for those of you who are into tarot, who are just interested in this whole art of the tarot, I'll kind of talk a little more about how the tarot is not about researching the card on Google and then looking up what it means, right? A lot what's happening with the tarot is that each card is like an archive, an endless archive. There are so many different meanings and messages that come through the tarot. It's not so much about a specific card meaning one thing. It's not one-dimensional. It's very multi-dimensional, just like us human beings. And I will talk about this in relation to this card. So the message that I had for you a couple of months ago related to this card is similar still, but very different, because as a tarot reader, as a channeler, as someone who gets messages from the beyond the veil, that gets messages from very specific guides, I open portals within the card, or the card opens different portals in different situations. So what I receive each time I pull this card is something very different from what I received previously as a message, and it's all related to the current energies that are present in the collective. It's related to the individual. If I'm doing a reading, if I pull this card for an individual, and then the next day I have another individual who I pull this card for, the messages might be completely different. It doesn't mean that they get the same type of message. And this is simply because when you are in constant communication with other realms and you connect to someone's soul, the card reveals something different. So it's like a living being, the cards. It's not so much what you find on Google, because I get this kinds of questions all the time, so I just wanted to share that a little more with you. And it's more about what I receive as a channel rather than what type of card shows up to. But with this one, with this Temperance card, it's very much connected to where we're at right now as a collective, what's happening in the world. It's all about learning how to find balance in your daily life. And of course, There is a rebalancing that's happening in the collective that's slightly overwhelming to some extent. Yes, it feels like there's no balancing happening at all, because look at what's happening, right? Like all the wars, all the violence, all of the events, the corruption, things coming out from the dark into light. That's your Aquarian age here. And things just kind of like slowly balancing out, and we're slowly seeing into lies that we're being sold. I'm not gonna get too political, but you can probably imagine what I'm talking about, right? You can totally understand what I'm talking about if you live on this planet nowadays. So with the Temperance card, this is also a very much individually focused card. I want to go a little layer deeper from what I'm sharing on like the global collective consciousness level. Yes, there is like a lack of balance, and it's currently being rebalanced, and it's a mess that's happening right now. But I'm also wanting to zoom into your life and zoom into spiritual communities or people who do the spiritual work. Nowadays, there's a bunch of people doing all types of amazing work nowadays in this age, as we're transitioning into this Aquarian age. And the balance of our everyday lives is extremely important nowadays. Some of you might be noticing nowadays more than ever before that what's happening is that you think about a thing, and it just shows up in your reality. You expect a thing, most of the time expecting the negative things to show up, and it pops up in your reality. You say you think about someone, and then you run into this person, right? This is a very simple example. But as you're noticing, some strange things are happening, right? Our reality is becoming a little more malleable, and it's starting to mirror our inner worlds more and more. It's becoming more and more like a microcosm, or macrocosm rather, of our inner being, of what is happening internally. And you don't even need to be someone who, who's like spiritually inclined or doing any type of inner work. I think you should be doing inner work, and you should be spiritually inclined nowadays, not religious or anything like that, but like working on yourself, on your soul, on your spirit. But you're noticing, I'm sure you're noticing this, how things just like flow in your life, and that it's not coincidental. And it's really important with this Temperance card, right? That we keep that internal balance, just so the outer world can give you more balance too. And the majority of the planet nowadays, everyone lives in a way where it's all about output, all about reacting. It's all about trying and changing things, trying and fix things, trying and just being very hands-on, very like masculine, hands-on with everything. And there's nothing wrong about it, but there's also aspects to it that are very controlling. So we're constantly trying to be in control over outer reality. We're constantly trying to mold our outer reality with our own hands in a way, in a very proactive way, in a very reactive way. And this is neurotic behavior. Because that's not how it works. Because you're overexerting energy trying to change things in your life. Try and put people in their place. Say you're having an argument or something. You try and make a point that you are better than them, or that you are right and they're wrong, or that when you're being wronged, you try and almost like let them know how wrong they are about everything, and you write paragraphs or you react, you yell, you try and like install consequences. And this is how the majority of the planet lives nowadays, is this hands-on try and control the reality of things in a very neurotic way of like, okay, I'm gonna just like react, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna prove my point. But with this Temperance card, what we're being asked to do is learn how to control your response to external events and internal events, and always starting within too. So despite the turbulence that we're experiencing in our daily lives, on a global level, despite the turbulence, can we soften into our own being? And can we remove the ego a little bit and not come from a place of reactivity? Because reactivity is the sympathetic nervous system. It's a fight or flight. It's a very primal response. It's like in your reactivity is also when someone is just say yelling at you, or it's someone who's just like talking to you and you don't like what they're saying, so you react with your words. It's not necessarily the reactivity that we see nowadays in wars, right, where people just like, politicians reacting like toddlers, right? Politicians doing like it's like a little boys on the playground. If you look at what's happening in politics nowadays, it's grown men acting like playground boys. There's so much to learn from our politicians, actually. They all act from a place of sympathetic nervous system, so fight or flight, attack, running away, right? And if we can act more from a space of sympathetic nervous system, where you're in a space of centeredness, of feeling grounded, and knowing the next steps to take that won't include reactivity, at least not direct reactivity, not direct fight, right? Very Piscean age, very old age stuff. But you act from a place of, okay, you're grounded. You take your time to be balanced enough to then generate a response or an inspired action that will actually make a difference, and that will actually come from your inner being, from your truth, from your authenticity. It's not going to come from you acting on your trauma or acting on your ego being hurt, right? Because again, this is what's happening. Like, look at the world, look at the politicians. They all in their little playground game, It's all ego games. It's all, I don't even know what to call it anymore. So with this message for the collective, with the temperance, there's a flow, there's water flowing in between the cups in a very interesting way. It's almost, it doesn't make sense on the gravity level. It's like something is happening that's slightly out of the ordinary here with this water flowing. And this out of the ordinary things you can only find when you find your internal silence, when you find your internal groundedness. You start to see the unconscious influences that dominate our lives, like institutional, societal, ancestral, our families' influences. Not to say that families are bad or anything like that. We all love our ancestors and our parents and everything, but we grew up in a system, and that system, that's our household, our family, our ancestry, carries specific codes, and they're all deeply embedded in us, and some of those codes are not in line with our soul's purpose. And when you become fully silent within yourself, or you find ground, maybe not silent, right? I think silent is the next stages, but you find that ground and centeredness internally, you start to see all of these things that are constantly influencing our behavior, that are constantly poking out our ego, that are constantly poking at our nervous system. Who's balanced nowadays, right? No one. I don't know many people who are balanced nowadays. It's very difficult to stay balanced, especially for those who feel the collective so deeply, especially for those who are empaths, and those who are so tuned in. And it's not an easy time to be alive for anyone. But once you find that inner balance, a space of in between, and he, it's not really a he, it's a non-binary being here. It's an angel in a way, and this little angel is 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on land. There is a balance, because water and earth, right, very different energies, very different elements, and this being is finding that balance. So the invitation here is to find ground, while also tapping into the deeper aspects of our beings. And that's where all of the magic comes in. And you start to realize not only, the unconscious influences that come from all the institutional, societal entities, whatever you would call that, it comes, the magic that you start to tap into, it all comes from your soul. And it all comes, from your full potential. You start to tap into aspects of yourself that you have never experienced before, you never learned about before. You start to feel a certain straightforwardness and simplicity to life, and an acceptance and like a flow in life that you had never experienced before. And it's not a complacency type of acceptance, right? There's of course the other extreme where people are like, oh, I don't give a shit what's happening in the world, and it's like I just live my own life. And most of the time, those who are constantly operating in the parasympathetic, or rather no, sympathetic nervous system, those who are in this fight or flight, I'm gonna just like be super reactive in my everyday life, in my just when it comes from survival mode, you can't actually do anything in this world. You can't bring any change. That's the paradox, right? Because those who find internal balance and they find groundedness, and you find that moment of temperance, of just like that in between, that liminal space that no one wants us to be in nowadays, with all of the stuff that we're being fed from the media and everything, just constant stimulation. Those who live in big cities, you know, the constant stimulation. It's very difficult to be in your liminal space, in your own space of blending all dualities and finding center. It's very difficult. But once you reach that space and you're no longer in survival mode, even just in your nervous system, you might not be in survival mode in your everyday life, in your material life, but internally, many of us are. And from that survival mode, you can't help anyone, let alone yourself, right? If you're super dysregulated, are you actually making a change in the world? No, because you can't even function in your everyday life, right? And that's how many people are nowadays. Many people are stuck in this loop of just being completely dysregulated, and then they add on those layers of being reactive, of freaking out what's happening in the world. If you're not freaking out about what's happening in the world, then you're being complacent, right? That's one of the things that I keep hearing around. Like, why aren't you talking about all these events, right? And yeah, it's important to talk about these events, but when you talk and you put yourself in a loop or a spiral of complete freak out, reactivity, you just spiral, right? You live in so much fear, constant fear. Is that in any way helping the children? Is that helping the victims of war and violence? No, it's not helping anyone. So the Temperance card, you know, this message that I keep getting, you know, it started like 2 months ago. This message keeps coming in whenever I tune into the collective. It's always the same stuff. It's just like balance, finding softness or connection to inner self despite the turbulence. And the same in your everyday personal lives. Refining the balance in your personal lives is probably the most complicated and the most difficult thing for some people. And there's a lot of bypassing that's happening too. I really want to bring this to your attention. For those of you who are more, say, spiritually inclined or doing some form of spiritual work, you know, we need the healers nowadays. We need the people who do the work. It's really important. But there's also an aspect to some of us who are doing the spiritual work that involves a lot of gaslighting and bypassing when it comes to this balance aspect. What do I mean by that, right? We're talking about reactivity. And nowadays, finding that internal balance it doesn't mean that you need to push your emotions away and not feel anything, right? Some people are like, oh, do we need to get rid of all the heavy emotions and all the really good emotions to find internal balance? No. It's blending those in a way where you can contain all of them. Containing the really exciting, you're overexcited and you're like, there's like a kid behind me just yelling. It seems like that kid is excited. I don't know what's happening in his or her life, but is being able to contain the intensity. So containing is almost like you're holding, like you're not grasping, you're holding, you're providing a foundation. That's an internal foundation for your emotions. So the excitement, the really, really fun emotions, and of course like the denser stuff, like grief, like anger, like what else is there that people feel nowadays? Disappointment, frustration. It's containing it where you fully allow yourself to feel it all, to experience it all internally. Containing it means fully allowing it. You're not pushing anything aside, you're not pushing it away, you're allowing it to go through your being, but you are not spewing it all out, because that's a tendency that all of us have. It's a very human thing. We were never taught any emotional intelligence in any school that we have attended. No one from our parents knows what that is, or our grandparents, so no one was ever taught that. It's not a common thing, at least not in the Western world. So this whole idea of like, in the spiritual communities, right, there's a lot of talk about, it's you know, I'm not repressing my emotions, I'm not repressing what's true for me, this is my truth, I'm gonna express my sacred anger. Big word that just means I'm just gonna vomit all of this stuff out that's been marinating deep inside of me, and it's for the person, say partner, romantic partner, to just handle it, because that's my true expression, and I'm living in my truth and my authenticity, right? And it's just that's the most toxic thing that occurs amongst especially women in the spiritual world. And there's so much manipulation and gaslighting that's happening in that. So it's not so much about your sacred anger, you know, it's being able to hold your sacred anger and contain it, right? The foundation part, feeling it, acknowledging it as part of you. And if that sacred anger is related to, say, your partner or your mother or whoever, right, you can express it in a way that's not charged and full of just explosiveness. You can express, okay, this bothers me, or look, this makes me kind of angry. And whatever you need to exert that type of energy, you can go run, you can go lift weights, you can go scream in the forest, I don't know. I like using traditional Tantra and Kundalini yoga for this type of practices, where you need to let something out. You just do a practice and it comes out, it gets pulled out of you right away. So even within that spiritual world of us all trying to find like the healing, the balance, us trying to heal the world and help people, there's still so much reactivity and so much lack of balance. And we're humans, and it's okay, and it's natural. But we can be expansive when we are stuck in our own stories, and when we're stuck in this lack of balance and this emotionality, this constant turbulence that takes us, that just sweeps us with it, right? Like a storm that sweeps us off our feet. And again, it's okay to feel all these things, but it's become everyday life for so many of us, even those who are doing really important work in this world. So the Temperance card is about alchemizing. It's about finding the balance in your everyday life where you're able to hold contrasts and dualities. Hold/contain, not being attached to any of those dualities, really. Just doing your best to live your life in an everyday life within your values and morals, without trying and teach someone a lesson because they're such a bad person. Not exerting that type of energy. Not constantly creating the drama in everyday life. And how do we do all of this, right? Honestly, something completely shifted. I've been meditating since the age of 16. I'm 31 right now, turning 32 this year, and I started meditating when I was 16. At that time, it was all about mental health for me. It was more about trying and find that balance, that balance within myself. There was a lot of stuff related to mental health. I was kind of depressed. There was a lot going on in my personal life. And meditation came into my life, and it became such a huge teacher. I haven't stopped since then. I've changed different, I've experimented with different types of meditation. I started with like chakra meditations, like studying the yogic science of like the chakras and the energy centers and all these like yogic things, right? Then I went into transcendental meditation and Buddhist meditation and Vipassana, and I did all of these different lineages. Each time felt like I unlocked something new within myself, and each time it brought me closer to my soul and closer to that state of just equanimity. In Vipassana, we call it equanimity, which is a state of detachment, but like a healthy type of detachment, the balance. And from that state of equanimity, you really experience that magic, and you start to realize how easy everyday life actually is. How the majority of your issues, if you really think about your worries, okay, right now I invite you, if you're watching, if you're watching this, think about your current worries. Think about what's nagging at the back of your mind right now. And once you have like a bit of a list, maybe it's one thing, maybe it's a couple of things, maybe it's 5 things. Can you recognize that the majority of these things that are currently in the back of your mind, that's currently in your consciousness that you're worried about, can you recognize which ones are just stories you're attached to? That it's just mind's clutter, that it doesn't actually matter if you really think about it. I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe there's an event coming up. Maybe it's something related to your, ex-partner, right? There's a lot of stuff with ex-partners. Like I do tarot readings, right? Personal tarot readings. And there's a lot of stuff coming up with like partners, ex-partners, love life, right? And if you really zoom into every single thing that's currently on your mind that you're so worried about, you're start to realize, first of all, nothing even happened. If you're worried about the future, nothing even happened yet, and you're already freaking out. Right? So you're creating already a story, a spiral, because we're bored if there's no spiral on this earth. It doesn't matter where you're from. It's almost like this addiction to neurosis, this addiction to thought patterns, to worries. We can't just live a simple life. And if you okay, seems like we're back. All right. So if you really zoom into every single pocket of your life that worries you, that is bringing some form of discomfort, you start to realize how much it's created by the mind. Created by this imbalance that's navigating your whole life, that's steering rather than navigate. It's steering your whole life. It's internal. It's the internal stuff. Again, just the opposite of this. And the ability to contain, some of your worries or discomforts, and then moving on from them, not marinating in them, that helps you create that balance. And that's why things like meditation, right? I started talking about this. I was going like all directions, but I feel like it's kind of what is needed. So meditation is not just downloading an app and sitting there and listening to sounds of nature, which can be meditative, but the really deep meditation. And I didn't finish my story, right? I started meditating when I was 16, and something that really, really, really shifted everything in my life 5 years ago, when I started working with the energy of the Kundalini. It's not KAP, Kundalini activation. I don't know what. This is all absolute trash. It's Kundalini energy. It's Kundalini yoga, traditional tantra. I'm more in that traditional tantra journey right now. And 5 years ago, once I started practicing this on a consistent daily basis, I started to experience those in-between states / in-between spaces internally, where you start to realize how much it keeps pausing, interesting, how much of your life is a construct of your own emotions, your reactivities, your ego, your fears, your anxieties. I noticed that 80% of my life 5 years ago was created by my emotional freakouts. Even if I wasn't maybe blatantly emotionally expressive with all the things that were going on internally, there was a lot going on, and reality was mirroring it all back to me. And then when I experienced that in-between state and space through this work that I've been doing since then, Kundalini and traditional Tantra, I saw how much all of us live in these constructs, in these frames, where we are so tied to our subconscious minds. We're so tied to specific stories that we keep repeating in therapy or wherever else you keep repeating them. And I just no longer wanted to live like this. I was like, I can't do this, I was like, we're here just for one life, right? This is just one life. Maybe some of us will come back next lifetime, but we don't know what we'll come back as, right? But right now, I just have this, and I have the present moment, and I have myself, and I have my body, and this human experience. So I might as well live it to the fullest. And we can live to the fullest when there's complete neurosis and chaos in your head, right? In your mind. I'm trying to hide from the sun, by the way. That's why I keep shrinking. A little too much sun here. You start to just realize how much time you're wasting, how much energy you're wasting on just complete chaos, like the relationship drama, the work drama, the gossips, he did this and I'm a victim, right? Playing the victim, how hard life is. Not to say that life doesn't get difficult. I had many difficult moments throughout my life, a lot. And it's only in the past 5 years that I started to take them on differently. And the challenges and the difficult moments would pass by quicker than before, simply because I'm able to contain the difficult moment and the emotions that are present in me. That might be anger, that might be sadness, that might be grief, that might be annoyance, that might be, I don't know, like I've been through a lot these past 5 years. It's like it passes a little quicker, and you almost integrate the lessons much quicker than you would when your mind is full of chaos and you're I'm the victim, or they're like the ones who, this is their fault or his fault or her fault. You're no longer in any of the stories that keep you in a state of stagnation, so you never leave the portal of the challenge or hard times, right? So what changed was approaching everything with this type of attitude, the temperance, with balance. It's acting from a space of centeredness, equanimity, connection to your truth and your authenticity, containing your emotions, and allowing life to run its course. Because life will always throw some things in your direction. Like, this is something I keep talking about over and over again in all of my classes, with my private clients. I'm like, we're not trying to reach a state where we're no longer gonna have any pain, no longer gonna have any disappointments. It's not about that. We are in this human design, and there's always gonna be stuff coming in and out of our lives. It's always gonna be, challenges, especially if you wanna, if you have dreams and you want to achieve things and you want to do things in this life. There's always gonna be little obstacles, little challenges, and it's all about how you approach them, how you respond to them, not react. You respond, how you relate to them. That you don't over-identify with every single thing that occurs to you, that happens to you, right? It's like an energetic load that you let go of when you reach that state of just like internal balance. And you're no longer in your stories, and you're no longer in your neurosis. You start to realize, wow, life is actually like, this is amazing. Even with its challenges, it's amazing. And things come to you much quicker. The things that you really want come to you much quicker. Things work out in your favor. The challenges become a little shorter, or that you travel through them with a lot more confidence and strength. And so cultivating that in your everyday life, it requires some discipline, first of all. It requires you absolutely need to work on your mind and your awareness. And it doesn't happen by reading a book on meditation or downloading an app, right? We're all becoming more sensitive, whether you have a spiritual practice or not, a daily practice or not. We're all becoming more sensitive. But dealing with what your mind is constantly playing over and over again, dealing with what's like deeply embedded in you, all these neuroses, it requires more work. It's not the affirmations. Affirmations don't work. Stop this stuff with affirmations. It's not gonna work, because it's your subconscious mind that doesn't believe that you are happy. I am happy. I don't know what, I'm abundant, I'm rich. Like all these little affirmations out there. It doesn't work because your subconscious mind is still stuck in your ancestral patterns of poverty, of not feeling good enough. You still haven't processed trauma from your childhood, no matter how much therapy you've done, like all of this stuff. It's just, that's not the real work. It can help for the start, for sure, but then you need to move on. You can't stick to therapy or affirmations and for years. It's not gonna work. So a lot of the stuff that I teach and I practice personally, it's not just like a teaching thing. It is this work with the subconscious mind It is this work with cultivating internal balance and silence, and the ability to really step into your truth and your full potential, where you're no longer owned by your mind, where you're no longer owned by your emotions, your insecurities, your traumas, your dramas. It is just a constant flow of energy, life, and you just trust. You just completely release your grip and you trust. And this is a little hard for sure. Those of you who have experienced some practices with me, you can probably tell, you can probably testify rather, that when we get into those postures, when we do these practices, these very meditative practices, where you're really working on all of the bugs that are in your mind, when you're really working on your limitations, and you get into postures where it works on you on an energetic level, it works on you on a neurological level, on a meridian point level, you can probably testify how difficult it is. And it's difficult because your mind is freaking out, because you're getting out of your habits, habitual thinking, habitual acting, behaving. It's also difficult. Those practices, those specific practices are also a little difficult because you're getting yourself out of your mind's frames. And when you get out of your mind's frames, everything that you have built around yourself, it's so solid. It's like you're inside of a box that's made of cement. It's so difficult to break through. And that's why those practices are so difficult. Because you're breaking through walls and walls. It's not just a box. It's literally, you're inside of a cell made of metal. Like, it just feels so difficult because of that. But it works. And eventually you emerge out of the cell, out of these frames that you have built around yourself, and that the whole world is kind of built. How the whole world is built. It's all in some form of frames. And you start to realize, oh my God, yeah, it was difficult, but I'm like so glad I did this. Those of you who have practiced with me Kundalini and traditional Tantra, you know what I'm talking about. And things just start to flow. And your mind is not, you start to own your mind, not your mind owning you and your neurosis owning you. Like, oh, I'm so insecure. Like, what if this, I'm so like this insecurities, like the, what will people think? How will I, what type of impression am I giving? What type of impressions will they be? Right? It's like so much energy that we're spending. It's all our mind owning us. That is the work that's really essential nowadays, given the collective energy. My guides, the cards, just keep throwing that at me, like balance, 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 balance. There's no more stuff that we need to be doing. It's less decorations in your practices, less distractions in your practices, less distractions in your everyday life. What can we take away to create more space for expansion of our souls and our awareness and our consciousness, rather than add on new things, new diets, new trending gadgets, new types of content, new whatever. That is why, like, Kundalini yoga, traditional Tantra is very not aesthetic, because we don't care about the decorations. We just, we wear white because it feels lighter on your energetic body, but you're free to wear whatever. But we just wear something plain that's aligned with the soul. We don't do any decorations, right? There's no distractions. Teachers are even invited to not wear any jewelry or anything like that. I like my little things here and there, so I like wearing some things, but it can be distracting to the students. I know I have like tattoos and everything, so I have a lot of distractions. So as in like distractions to those who might be, you know, taking my classes, right? But with that specific lineage, it's all about removing the distractions, and I completely agree with that. That's exactly what we need to be doing in our everyday lives. Less of those aesthetic practices and, you know, like, oh, I'm so spiritual with my sage stick or whatever, my cute little crystal. Like, obviously all of these things work, but also we need to stop the BS, you know, stop the decorations, return to the truth. And the truth is not about the decorations. The truth is about the here and now. It's internal balance. It's connecting to yourself and cultivating the parasympathetic, like strengthening your parasympathetic nervous system rather than the sympathetic where you're just like fight or flight. It's about cultivating that inner balance that allows you to speak from your truth and from your heart, and not the ego, not your whatever else there is, your traumas, patterns. That's my share for now. If you want to continue any of this work, if this resonated, I'm launching my Becoming Woman 6-week program in September 15th. I think that's the date, where for 6 weeks we work on all spheres of your life. This is all for women, and we go into the depths of all these topics. It's a really life-changing curriculum that I'm working on, different from my previous ones. So if you want to join, you can DM me and I'll give you more details. Otherwise, I'm burning here. I'm wishing you all a beautiful weekend. I hope this was helpful. Please share if it was. Share with me what your insights are. And I'll be showing up here more often, sharing the cards, sharing some insights. Sat Nam. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone.